Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we have a real good one for you today. Today, we're going to connect with Derek Demun. Derek is out of California, and he's just, in general, a badass. He actually just recently started hunting. It's an adult onset hunter, but he had a big event happen to him before he started hunting, and that's actually that he broke his back and became a paraplegic. So, super unique good dude, super unique stories. All I can say is he's a badass, and I want to thank you, Derek, so much for jumping on the podcast. It was a lot of fun to hear your stories. And he gives us some good ones, about 3 or 4 different ones, from archery antelope to crossbow alligators to a bear charging him and his dad. So super cool stuff. Derek, thanks again. I'm going to go ahead and stop right there and just, you know what? I'm going to let Derek tell you his stories. All right, Derek, welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing stoked. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, super excited to have you here. You're one of the few and the proud that have actually reached out to me because you've got some great stories to tell. So I want to say thank you, of course, man, for coming on. I'm super excited to hear. Some of you've done more hunting than I have by a long shot. So I'm excited to hear some of your stories, and your stories are actually a little bit more unique. And maybe I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself so that the people can know who we're talking to and why what you're doing is pretty damn special.
Yeah, my name's Derek, 34. I'm a T8 paraplegic. I'm basically paralyzed from the chest down, but I still get out there. I'm slinging sticks and arrows, sending lead down range, and putting heads on the wall and food in the freezer.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So I got to ask a couple questions, and you can answer them in whatever order you wanted. But so when and how did you start hunting? And then when did your injury happen? And I guess go into a little bit of detail on the injury itself.
Yeah, so right out of high school, I'm from Huntington Beach, California, Southern California, a little surf community. Right out of high school, I moved out and started traveling the world snowboarding. I had
Nice.
Telluride, Colorado, Park City, Utah. From there, I moved down to Australia. From Australia, I moved up to Lake Tahoe. And while I was working in Lake Tahoe, I was working construction, and I slipped off a roof and broke my T8 vertebrae in 8 pieces. And
Gosh. Was it like a first story roof, or were there a couple stories, or how far did you fall?
It was about 11 feet. It was on a slanted gravel roof, and it was about 90 degrees outside. So I stepped back on that gravel, and the gravel just gave out under my shoes. And I just went right over the side, landed on my shoulders from about 11 feet up. And that's where the journey started.
God, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. So did you hunt before you had the injury, or is this something that you picked up after?
Never hunted. We have a killer fishery down here in Southern California. Big bluefin, yellowtail, all kinds of sea critters, dude. But I always had that itch, the outdoors calling, and traveling the world snowboarding, coming across herds of elk, giant mule deer,
Yeah.
Coyotes up the yin yang. Like I was always had that itch to, not necessarily. I guess everybody says this, oh, it's not about putting something on the wall, but damn right it is, dude. Like I wanted to, and so the itch was always there, and I never got to do it until my uncle had done some work for a buddy of his out in southeast Kansas. And instead of, I had mentioned out to my uncle because he hunts, he does a lot of coos and mule deer down in southern Arizona. I mentioned out to him that I wanted to hunt, and after doing work for his buddy in Kansas, instead of paying him cash outright, was just I asked him if he could give him a free whitetail hunt, and my uncle gave it to me, and that's where it started.
That's awesome, man. So I know you said you were snowboarding when you were 18. How old were you when you got hurt? And then how old were you when you started hunting?
So I got hurt about 2 months after my 21st birthday, right on the spot. And then I got into hunting probably 4 years into my injury.
Yeah.
So
Man, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. That like most people don't have it in them to go hunting without like, any kind of disability like you have, and then you're like, man, this is gonna be hard as shit, but I don't care. I'm gonna just go after it. Now, that's fucking awesome, man. I'm impressed.
yeah, I had the well, after hunting adrenaline like that, snowboarding and going as fast as you can, I needed to find something to fill that void. And I was having a real hard time filling that adrenaline void until, as silly as it sounds, until I shot my first doe.
Yeah. Was that
No,
on that hunt, or so you were successful that first hunt?
yeah, that very first hunt, I got a doe under my belt, got the shakes, got the works, and I was like, oh man, dude, like game on. Here we go.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. What were you? I'm assuming rifle hunting.
Yeah, we were rifle hunting out there, and that was a crazy story out there. Is first time out there, the second morning we were out there, it was negative 13 degrees. It was like the coldest cold spell they had had in like 80 years or something like that. But it was dead frozen. There was not a single thing moving out there, rightfully so, and everything was just coming out in the afternoons. But it was so cold that morning, our heater froze.
Heater in your car, or
No,
like in the blind?
the blind, our little
No
portable heater
shit.
froze over and stopped working and got all icicled. It was pretty funny. We're laughing about it now, but during the time we were freezing our ass off, dude.
God, I'm sure, man. I'm sure. That just reminded me. I was just on a walk today. It wasn't even near that cold, but I, for the first time ever, saw a goose frozen to a lake that had died, just frozen right on top. So I can imagine how cold it can get, man. But and so your uncle went with you?
Yeah, it's me, my uncle, and my dad. My dad is usually my road buddy out there. That it's a cool time. Like I get to hunt, but I get to make cool memories with my pops. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't hunt. He sits there, and I give him the video camera and let him dabble with
Yeah.
that.
Has he thought about picking it up, seeing your success?
Man, I'm lucky if that guy can film the broadside of a barn, dude. Let alone hunt.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, we don't got to dive too deep into anything else here. I mean, the point of the podcast. We want to hear your stories, man. So I know you had a couple for us. I think you mentioned an alligator with a crossbow. Why don't we kick things off with that one, man?
All right, yeah. So went down to Lake Okeechobee down in Florida, and it was about mid-October. Went down there with a guy on Instagram. He goes, Python Mike. He hunts pythons. He does all kinds of cool stuff down there. But yeah, we went down there, and first night we went to a lodge, and the first night we went out there and kicked it off with a beautiful sunset. But I don't know if anybody's ever done gator hunting out there, but it was cool. They get a raw chicken and they wrap some line around it to like a deep sea fishing rod. And we're glassing, found a gator. It's about 9 feet. Go and you chuck the chicken probably yards in front of the gator, and you drive your boat past it, and you reel in the chicken and bounce the chicken on top of the water so it gives that vibration off. Gator saw it, came right after it, swallowed it up, and when after they eat, they go down to the bottom and just post up on the bottom and let that chicken or their food or whatever just marinate in their bodies till they consume it. And
Yeah.
so that's that first night we were going, and some weeds and some reeds got caught up in our fishing line, and it got to the point where it got so bad we had to actually cut the line that first night and call it a loss.
Oh man.
That was a tough going, but next morning, you know how it is. Get up, next morning's a whole new day, whole new hunt. We get out, we're glassing, and it was the first night it was nighttime, and it was harder to see, and I couldn't really see anything when I was glassing. But man, when I saw my first gator on Lake Okeechobee, after seeing that first one, they were absolutely everywhere. The population of alligators down there is
Yeah.
amazing.
So just once you knew what you were looking for, you could like differentiate between a log and a gator. All of a sudden, they were just
Oh,
everywhere.
yeah, absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
crazy. Do you know the
It,
population down there, like off the top of your head? Like, have you looked in up, like to see the, gators per square mile of water or anything like that?
I haven't, but it's a boatload. So whatever.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just by 5-foot gators all the way up to like 13, 14-foot dinosaurs, just massive.
God, can't even
So
imagine, man.
it
My
was
problem
cool.
with hunting is I can never seem to find the animal. So it seems like in this story, that's not a problem. But go
No,
ahead.
it was cool. We drove out on Lake Okeechobee on like probably like a 14-foot center console boat, just hauling ass as far as we could go. And I guess they put us right in a little sweet spot, and found a gator, found a good one. It was probably that first gator, that first night was probably only around 9 feet. This gator that we saw was pushing 12 foot. So
Jesus.
we, did the deed, threw the chicken in the water, drove past, just bouncing. Gator swallowed.
What kind of hook do you have on like I'm assuming there's some kind of hook, right?
No,
You're what's that?
there's no hook. So
Okay.
what the deal is, the gator has, opens its mouth. It has this like flap that closes its esophagus. So when it swallows the food, that the chicken in this instance, it it swallows that food, and that flaps down to close the esophagus so water and stuff doesn't get down in its belly. But then when it goes, it flicks its head back, and that flap opens, and the chicken goes down into his stomach. He swallowed it, swam down to the bottom of the lake, and sat there and just marinated. And then we put on the trolling motor to go up on this thing as quietly as possible. We get almost directly right on top of it, and we had one of the buddies, I forgot his name, but he's one of the coolest redneck hillbilly gator. He's just a cool old dude who's been around the block and killed plenty of gators, and just funny stories. So he's got what we would use out here for catching like 300-400 pound tuna. He's got a giant rod, probably 300-400 pound test, and he's reeling it up, gets it all the way up to the top. And I had a crossbow, and when it got up to the spot, I was using iron sights. And so with an alligator too, you're trying to aim between the eyes and just a little bit back for a brain shot. You want to get it in the brain, or you're gonna have an adventure on your hands. Well, shooting at iron sights with the crossbow, I kind of missed and shot low. Went through its cheeks actually. So it went through the right cheek first and out the left cheek. So when you're alligator hunting, you want to get as many lines in it as possible in case line A breaks, you have B breaks, you'll have C. So but that crossbow went through its cheeks. It was not happy at all. This thing started.
I can imagine.
Its tail, I don't even know how long its tail, but it was smacking up against the side of the boat. And I'm in my wheelchair. My pops is holding the back of my wheelchair so I don't roll over and become gator food. So shot this thing, and then Mike hands me a harpoon. You get a harpoon for line B. Go, and I chuck the harpoon, and I get it. I missed the brain once again. I mean, you're aiming for something the size of a baseball on a giant. It was tough, but
yeah, and you probably hadn't thrown too many harpoons in your life before they handed you that thing, huh?
Yeah, it's not something I go to the gym and practice. So I threw that back, got it a little back, but still got it in the head. So we got line A, we got line B successful. Then we micromanage the boat around a thrashing dinosaur, and then we go and we go and they have what's called a bang stick. It's about, I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's about a 6-foot rod, and it has on the very tip, it has a 357 Magnum.
Okay, yeah, I've heard about those.
So it's basically like a spear. You spear the thing, and it speared it in the back of the head, and crossed that first time. So I got it twice with the bang stick. The first time I got it with the bang stick, I put it right into his eye, and that thing went off right in his eye. And I thought it was toast after that. But they wanted me to get another bang stick into him, so I went and got the bang stick and finished him off that way. And he slowly started to sink, but we had that chicken still in him, brought him up, reeled him up to the top. And the first thing they do too is get the duct tape out, duct tape its mouth shut, even if it's alive or dead. You don't want that thing taking someone's.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Couple questions. Bang sticks. Do you reload them like you would kind of a pistol, or do they just have multiple sticks and you use the one and then you grabbed another one?
No, yeah, they're reloading. You can reload them. Unscrew the tip, put another round in there, screw the tip back on, and it's basically like a firearm. It's got the firing pin hits off, they had bang sticks up there, but multiple ammunition as well.
Got it. Okay, cool. And then what's my other question? So are alligators known to kind of postpartum snap their jaws a little bit and have some movement, or are they pretty dead when they're dead?
You know what? I have no idea.
Okay, yeah.
The dinosaur expert might know that, alligator, but I wasn't.
I figured don't take any chances with that kind of thing.
I wasn't fighting that option, so they taped its mouth shut pretty quick. But it was crazy too. Once we got him into the boat, he was, so the gator ended up measuring 11 foot 6 inches.
Gosh, that's huge.
Absolute monster. I've never been up to an animal that big before. It was just it was mind blowing. These guys were acting like it was like a little carp or something like that. Like
that's funny. Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Crossbow, is that like the standard weapon of choice for these kind of things, or like why did you go with the crossbow?
I personally wanted to do it archery. I was gonna try to do it with my compound, but I didn't have the correct setup. It's an entirely different setup. You can't just go out there with your whitetail bow and an alligator. There's all kinds of different contraptions and cords and hooks and broadheads, but the closest they could get me was a crossbow, and I was cool with that. I just, at this point in my hunting life, I'm just kind of going the archery route.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay. So here's the next question. Let's finish the alligator story if there's anything left.
Shoot, man. That was about it. And then we, smashed home, had some celebratory drinks. I got to watch him cut it out and string it up. And I'm getting the thing turned into a rug. I got the whole thing rugged out.
That's awesome.
Badass wall mount. Expensive, but I'm like, how many times in my life am I going to go down to Southern Florida and hunt an alligator?
That's awesome.
I brought some meat home. They were telling me, the best parts are the cheeks and the tail. I said everything other than that, it's unless you have like a deep fryer, from what they were telling me, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some alligator sausage. It was tasty. I mean, it tasted like sausage. You put enough seasoning in there, that's all you're going to get. So, but that's cool, man. That's super cool. Did you end up getting to weigh it and see how big it was? Obviously, it was like 11.6 length, but did you find the weight?
No, they didn't have a scale in the barn at the outfitter.
Gotcha. Giant is what it was. So
yeah,
cool, man.
anything that big, you're looking at, at least 300-400 something pounds.
I'm sure. So then the next question I have for you is, when did you get into archery? And tell us a little bit about that, because obviously you probably started with firearms with your dad shooting that doe. But then how did your hunting evolve?
Out the Outdoorsman channel. I mean, I think that's a lot of people's route in their hunting evolution, where they go. They start out with rifles, and they try to work into the archery. And I just it looked like a whole new ball game, and I just started shooting. I bought a bow, started shooting paper targets, and just eventually wanted to grow to that level of getting something with a stick and string. So
that's cool, man. That's cool. And
a lot of hours on the YouTube watching hunting shows.
yeah, I've been there. Well, I gotta ask you, I know I'm actually looking at your Instagram right now, and I see this photo, and it's a badass. Actually, it looks like it might be a video. But I'm seeing the still frame of when you did an archery antelope. And I've been archery antelope hunting, and that shit's hard. So I would love to hear that story, man, if you're willing to share it, because you got a beautiful antelope right over your shoulder. And I'm definitely going to share this photo with everybody on my Instagram page, because it's too cool.
Awesome. Yeah, no worries. I got super blessed. My niece's boyfriend is a ranch manager, and he actually got me some access onto some property. And the first day of the hunt, we were hunting an open field, and just having a hard time coming in. He's like, "Oh, you know what? I got a blind set up over some water. It's the only water around for miles." I was like, "Dude," I was like, "That's where I need to be right there."
Yeah.
So we get there, and we got a decoy. We got just a plastic decoy on two little spikes, and put it in the ground. And first morning come up, and this thing, so I'm sitting there, and the sun barely peeking up over the horizon, and it was just so beautiful. Like, I'm from Huntington Beach. It's kind of city. There's buildings everywhere. There's not a building around for miles where I was at hunting this water hole. I was just cloud nine, sitting there, and this thing creeps up over the horizon, and it is just absolute stud. You could tell he was the alpha of the area, and he comes up to his water, and he sees that decoy. He starts just scratching at the ground, making scrapes, rubbing his antlers in the ground. I don't know what you call it, what an animal does, but he was, barking or making whatever sounds. He was just showing off his dominance.
Yeah.
And, the decoy's not going to move. So he eventually went up, got his water, and walked out. But so we're going, and then the wind picked up, and it knocked the decoy over. We're going, and I'm sitting there in the middle of the day by myself, and it measured out to like 98 degrees Fahrenheit.
Were you hunting in California or another state?
Oh, sorry, I should have mentioned that. It was southeast Colorado.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's exactly where I went for mine. But but keep going, man. Keep going.
They were out in the sticks. So we're going out there, and I'm sitting there, and this thing comes up over the hill. And by this time, my niece Chelsea had dropped in with me, and she we didn't have a camera on us, so she busted out her phone. But this thing peeked up over the horizon, and it was just, its tines are beautiful. It was just a beautiful animal, and then the sun beaming off of its fur, and it was just, it was the most beautiful animal I've ever seen on the hoof. And it comes in, and it has and it had like 6 does with it this time. And oh no, that's a lot of eyes. And
yeah.
So we're just sitting there, and the blind had been there for a couple days, probably a week. So it was used to the blind, but it wasn't used to the 2 new things silhouetted inside of it. they locked onto us, and we were stuck there for a little bit, and then the does kind of meandered back, and the buck came up to get some water, and the water trough, like I said, it was the cleanest water around for miles. So it was the spot to go to. So this water trough, it was kind of overflowing and kind of had a little stream going downhill, and the antelope goes and just drinking out of that little creek that the water trough had made, and eating the fresh grass, turned broadside. My niece gave me the go ahead, and I sent it.
Thwack. That's awesome, man. Yeah, well, I went hunting in southeastern Colorado, La Junta. I'm sure you know where it is. It's probably not far from where you're talking about. But I went, like, I spent days just like scouring the online maps, being like, okay, where's water? Where's water? Found a couple pins. I was like, I'm gonna check these things out, and drove down there. And then there was a bucket of, or like a big tank of water, like every 500 yards, like just everywhere. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do now, because that was my entire game plan. So that's awesome that you had such a good setup where they were actually coming in, because we sat a couple water spots, but is why this one versus the other 15 that we can see, because you can see forever out there, right?
Yeah. There's nothing. There's no buildings out there, no trees. It's just flat, arid, dry.
Yep. What time of year was this? If they were rutting, was it kind of a little bit later? Or?
No, it was mid-August.
Okay.
Late
That's
August.
Awesome.
Around the 20th of actually. And what was cool too, that the thing that made that hunt so like best out of my hunt, that was the exact day that I had broke my back.
Oh, no way.
About 10 years earlier. So on
that's crazy.
Day, I got my first animal with a stick and string.
Oh, that was your first archery kill?
Yeah, my first go-to.
That's awesome. And how long ago was that? Like, what year was that? Like, was it 2-3 years ago, 5 years ago?
2020.
2020. Okay. Gotcha, man. Derek, that's cool. That's a super cool story. And the pictures are really beautiful. You said your niece was with you?
Yeah, she does wedding photography. So she's she got some cool photos there.
Yeah. It's really impressive. I see your whitetail ones. I'm like, very cool. But those antelope ones just stand out. She did an awesome job. How old was she when she was taking those photos?
Oh, shoot. She's
I think niece, you're like, I don't know, she's 10. But I have a feeling she's a little bit older than 10.
24, 25.
Okay, got it. Is she from Colorado, or how did she get out in that hunt?
Yeah, she's out there. She lives out there.
Okay. That's cool, man. That's super cool. Well, what else you got, Derek? What other stories you want to tell us? I know you got some whitetail ones, or you pick and choose, my man.
All right. I got my biggest whitetail today. I got 164 7/8 inch whitetail out in Kansas. That was a fun story. So me and my dad, we parked down about 300-400 yards, and we had a buddy who's got property out there. So we went, posted up a blind. We get into the blind, and it's about 2. It was exactly 2 in the afternoon, and we're just sitting there meandering, not expecting anything to come out until sundown. Dusk, that magic. Yeah. We're going, and I see a doe pop out over my left shoulder, and I start smacking my dad on the leg. I don't want to be like, hey, there's a deer,
Yeah.
Smack him on the leg, and he freezes up. He knows the drill. He freezes up watching this doe, and we had a corn feeder about 80 yards in front of us, and we're watching this doe come out and going off towards that corn feeder. And I'm paying attention to the doe, and I see something out of the corner of my eye, and I look over, and all I see is just tines on tines and mass and kickers, and just a beautiful, beautiful deer. Head down, licking his lips, sniffing. So at that time it was December 6th. So it was like during like the second rut out there in Kansas was kicking off right around that time.
All right.
So this doe was obviously hot, and that buck, he smelt her. He knew where she was, and putting his nose down, coming out, and he gets about 30 yards. I get my rifle up on the blind window. I post up, get him right there, dead center, perfect shot. Pull the trigger, click.
Oh God, no.
No, like we had just gotten to the blind. I forgot to rack around, and we were just in the blind. We just got in there.
Yeah.
We that blind for 15 minutes before these deer showed up. So click, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not happening right now. This is the biggest deer I've ever seen, and I'm just totally blowing it. So I'm like, all right, hold it together. Slowly, quietly racked around. And by this time it saw the doe. That doe was probably up by the feeder about 80 yards off. So the buck starts jogging and trotting off. I'm like, oh no, this is not happening. I get that in there, and they start to go left off into the trees. The doe's into the trees, and I gotta rewind. So when that buck originally came out, what got him to stop, I went meh, the classic meh sound, and it stopped and looked back. End up missing it, dry firing. So I go, and then he goes into the trees, and right before he goes into the trees, he stops and looks back like, what was that sound? Like, where was that other buck from? I want to make sure this doe's all mine. And he stopped perfectly broadside at 80, 85 yards. And I just perfect shot. I wasn't, shame on me. Fool me once. Shame. I let it happen twice. So that second shot, perfect, right in the pump house. This thing walked about 30 feet and just piled up.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. Did it react when you dry fired? Did that click or racking anything? Is that what made it go to a jog, or was it just going to that doe that made it jog?
Yeah, it had no idea. It had no idea. It was all of its senses were focused on that doe. Yeah. That doe was getting a little too far away for him. So I'm thinking that's what he started to jog off and check it out.
Gotcha, man. That's awesome. That reminded me of, I've told this story on the podcast, but mine wasn't there wasn't one in the chamber. The gun just wasn't working. If I had to guess, probably there's like bad ammo or something, but I've been there looking down my sight at a doe at we're talking 14 yards. I had a laser on an AR, and I had it on the side of the deer and just click. And it's the worst feeling ever. I can't even imagine if it was on the biggest deer you've ever seen on the hoof. Like, that'd be so much worse. I'm either way, glad you put it down, man. Glad you put it down.
Yeah, my heart sank quicker than the Titanic on that one. I'm not gonna lie, dude, but
I can believe it.
It was cool, just now that I look back on it, it obviously adds to the story, adds to the memory, and you can laugh about it. Like, remember that time you blah blah blah. But it was, that's funny. I didn't get excited right off the bat. My dad's freaking out. He's like, "That's the biggest deer of your life." I was like, until I get my hands on that thing, because there's a creek in that property, and I've had deer run into that creek and not be able to make it out, but they'll submerge themselves to where you can't find them, and you don't know if they ran past the creek or whatever. But I just wasn't ready to get excited until I had my hands on them. But yeah, eventually got my hands on that thing and cloud nine.
Yeah, man, that's cool. It's a beautiful looking deer too. What I gotta ask, I know you have some maybe another story or two for us, but what hunting do you have lined up coming up here in the future, and what is on your bucket list of just badass hunts that you're hoping to make happen?
So in about 2 weeks, heading out to Utah to get a cow elk. So hopefully get out there, and got a landowner tag from a buddy. So we're gonna go out there and hopefully put some meat in the freezer. And then February, a buddy and I are heading out to South Florida again, around the Fort Lauderdale area. We're going hog hunting and iguana hunting.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I went iguana hunting out in October, and it was one of the funnest hunts I've ever been on. If anybody wants to go do it, I highly recommend it. Wide open. There's iguanas everywhere. Like the governor down there said it's such a bad deal. He just it's open season down there, and you go out there with high powered BB guns or airsoft guns, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you just shoot as many of these things as you can. There's certain spots you could only hunt them, like under the waterways, under bridges and stuff like that. You can't be going shooting iguanas on people's yards and stuff. But yeah, it's just wide open. So we're doing that, and they're going to be during Florida too in February. It's their mating season. So usually these green iguanas are going to be bright orange,
no shit.
Yeah, they turn like neon orange while they're mating. So it's going to be cool. The goal is to get a really big one. That'd be a cool little full body mount of bright orange iguana.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It probably makes them easy as hell to see too. I've been to Florida and I've like been on boats and stuff and just like seen them just laying on rocks all over the place. So, but I never realized people hunt them. Do you eat them?
Yeah, you can eat them. You deep fry them just like frog legs, made tacos. Delicious, man. They came out really good. A lot of stuff's pretty good if you mask it with seasonings and tomatoes and all that. You can make anything edible, but they taste good. So
is it comparable to anything? Like, is it comparable to frog legs or?
Yeah, that's the closest comparable. That's why I threw it out there. If you have frog legs, not much meat, but I like to eat everything I kill. So.
Yeah, I'm the same. I just struggle to kill anything. Right now, my freezer is empty. I had a tough season this year, but that's all right. I just moved to Texas, so I'm going to get some hog hunting, and hopefully I can fill that thing back up. So
there you go,
cool, Derek. Yeah. Well, so what's on your? So you got a full year coming up, but what's on your bucket list, man?
Oh, the bucket list.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're getting.
You never know who's listening, man. Maybe somebody's like, you know what? Let's get this guy out to a moose hunter. Who knows, man? Right?
I'm actually saving. So I'm getting my disability checks. I'm saving about, I get $200 a month. I stash away for a moose hunt. Alaska, hopefully. Yukon. I don't know how it would work. Possibly take a boat up a river, and I don't know. I'll worry about that thing. But yeah, any of those big game animals, like a big elk, caribou, beautiful. I shot a little black bear in Maine. That was pretty cool. But yeah, just something big like that. Brown bear, caribou, elk, moose, something red stick in New Zealand. We could all dream.
Right? Yeah, for sure. Man, that's cool. There's probably a lot of logistics with obviously you being in a wheelchair and getting you out to these things. Have there ever been any hunts that you just like couldn't put it together, like where you were like you had the opportunity but it just wasn't working out for you because of XYZ of with your disability?
You know what, man, I don't like excuses. I make it happen.
Yeah.
One time we went to a place, didn't find a bed, slept on the floor. It doesn't, when you put your mind to something and you really want it, like you really want to check that off, you won't accept excuses, because the excuses will haunt you in the end.
Yeah.
I
believe it, man.
For right after I got hurt, those first couple of years were extremely tough, going from traveling the world to, being a freaking cripple in a wheelchair, stuck, not knowing what to do with your life, just miserable. And I just, the switch flipped, and I was over making excuses. I hate excuses nowadays. So I'm always I'm in the gym training. So when those days are and I'm out in the field having to push my chair, my shoulders are ready for it. My back's ready for it. I just, excuses won't fly in my book anymore. So I'm there to make it happen. If there's a will, there's a way. And if you put your heart to it, as cliche as it sounds, you'll move heaven and earth to get it done.
That's awesome, man.
That's the goal. It's the mindset.
God, it's such a badass attitude. so many people need to hear this message, man. Like, you got it harder than most, and you're here just like, nope, I'm going to get it done. And that's awesome. So
You got it. It's no one's coming to save you. It's you. No one's going to sit out there and carry you to a caribou out in the boons. You're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to it's not motivation, it's discipline, where you wake up every day working hard at your goal. Even if you're sick, you're tired, you're feeling lazy, whatever it is, get out there, get it done. There's a goal to be had, crush it, get out there, slam it, dude. I have too much empty space in my freezer and too many empty slots on my wall. So.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Motivation, but you're getting me hyped up, man. This is the life I live. I love it. So
yeah, bud. Yeah, I'm impressed. I don't know, you got any more stories for us? I know you said you had a couple. We've already ran through a bunch. I probably took us down some rabbit holes or iguana holes, but any other ones you want to tell us today?
Yeah, so I had mentioned the black bear hunt. I got up in upstate Maine. We're probably about 2 miles from the Canadian border, and it was late September. All the trees are turning colors, just absolutely gorgeous up there. That whole state is an entire forest. There's not a single speck.
It's beautiful, man. Beautiful. And you get lobster for like cheap as shit.
Yeah, they put like, instead of salsa, you get lobster and chips and lobster, But,
yeah, right. Yeah, so you're Maine. How did you get invited to this opportunity, or where did this come from?
It was a dream. I wanted to kill a bear. I wanted to kill a black bear. I put in the research, lots of hours of just calling outfitter after outfitter, like, what are the dimensions of your door frames? Like, can my 26-inch wheelchair make it through your 28-inch door frame? Yeah, 28 inches, perfect. That gives me an inch on each. What's the door frames to your bathrooms? Can I get into your bathroom, or am I have to go shit in the woods? You know what I mean? Like, just like small logistics like that. And certain places are like, yeah, they talk, people talk a game, but when it comes down to it, not everybody can help you out. So I found an outfitter. The dimensions worked. The guy was super nice. Yeah, got out there. So we get out there, and the wheelchair I have an off-road wheelchair with mountain bike tires, and it's got shocks on it, like 4-inch shocks on the backs.
That's awesome.
It takes the beating, but at the same time, those shocks were squeaky. So you're trying to sneak through the forest. It's going, like it's making a squeak sound. So we had to figure out a way to get me out there. Well, this guy was an ex, I forgot the term, nurse in the army, and he had a gurney. So they put me on a gurney, and him and my dad walked me 100 yards through the forest in a gurney. I'm laying on a gurney like I'm busted up, and they get out there, put me on the ground. They walked back, grabbed the wheelchair. They carried the wheelchair in, help get me back up into my chair. We're sitting there. Me and my dad are sitting, waiting. And then that golden hour came, and boom, a bear. Those things pop out of nowhere, and they're silent as can be. You would think something that big and that big of a paw print would make noise. This thing was on top of us, 15 yards away, and I did not hear a sound, but saw it. So we go in, and it's got so what they were baiting out there, and they had a big trash can barrel full of donuts. The outfitter friend with the pastry maker in town, and he would get all his leftover donuts, and the bears were all about it because of the sugar and trying to put all that weight on for the winter. So they
makes sense,
addicted to that sugar, and they came in, and this black bear, small black bear, 120 pounds, goes and he takes a donut, goes about 10 yards off to the left, starts eating a donut, and we're just sitting there watching this thing. And it at an instant, it just barked. I don't know the right term, but it barked really loud, just like roof, and it turned around 180 degrees and took off full speed. Well, what's downrange of this thing running at full speed is me and my dad. And
Jesus.
my dad's 3 feet next to me, laying his back against an aspen, and I'm laying up against an aspen, and the only thing we have next to us, it was only next to me, and it was that gurney, and it was we throw some bushes over that gurney or whatnot, but this bear went to run in between me and my dad, and it was full speed, and when those feet hit the ground, it was thud 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 thud. You feel the earth move, even if it's just a small bear. It gets about 5 feet from me and my dad, and I just put my arms up really high, and it goes, "Hey, bear!" And I screamed at the bear, and the bear looked up at me, and its eyes were saucered eyes. Like, it was like, oh shit, like, what was that? Like, what is that? Like, and it stops, and when it stops, it kicked up all that dirt from where it stopped, kicked up all over my dad's chest. Like, all the dirt went up over my dad, and this thing turns and runs and jumps over my dad and brushes up against my dad's arm. Like, my dad felt the fur of its arm, and like, I saw the color of his eyes and everything. That's my dad. And all I had a 7mm mag on me, like a rifle. I'm not going to take that shot at my dad unless this thing's absolutely mauling my dad, and then even at that, it would be super scary to take that kind of shot with your adrenaline running that hard, trying to take a shot. And there's just too much room for error there. But yeah, this thing just turned on a dime, kicked up dirt, brushed up against my dad, and this thing turns running off, and my dad's just staring at the ground. I'm like, Dad. And he looks up at me. That was a big bear, and he just his eyes were huge. He was like, "Oh, what's the biggest bear?" It was like 100-pound, 120-pound bear. It's a little black.
Yeah,
bear.
For him it was a grizzly bear, right?
Oh, yeah. It was amazing. And then we're sitting there, our adrenaline just running through our heads. And what had spooked that bear in the beginning was another black bear, not much bigger, 20-30 extra pounds. But this time I had a bunch of adrenaline rushing through us, and I was like, should I take that? My dad said, yeah, take that bear. So I go and I shoot the bear. The second bear that came in, scope slap right between my eyes. dripping blood off my nose, off my chin. But I got a bear piled up 20 yards in front of me. We're ecstatic. We're hugging. I got blood all over my camis, dude. Like, it was really cool. It was really funny too, because like right before I got out of the truck, I had my GoPro on the dash, and I was like, should I bring that? I was like, nah, I'm not gonna bring it, dude.
That's so bad. That's too bad, man. That's too bad.
Yeah, it was funny though. Just I'm still rocking the scar from that scope slap. So
that's an amazing story from just charging your dad. Like, God, I can't even imagine a bear. Even, you're right, even 100-pound bear charging you. No thanks. No thanks.
My dad's sitting on the ground too, so it's not like he was standing up and had a bear charge him. Like, he was completely vulnerable, sitting on the ground, back laid up against an aspen tree. Like, if this thing would have hit him, my dad would have been dead probably. With this thing running full speed, 100 pounds, that kinetic energy hitting my dad like that against a tree, he would have been toast. So
has he been hunting with you since?
Yeah.
Or is he taking a break?
Yeah, no, he was. We just stashed that one in the memory banks and tell that story. But yeah, he's my hunting buddy. We have fun together.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Derek, you're a bona fide badass, man. You got some great stories, and it sounds like your dad's a real trooper too. Just if he's got no interest in hunting, but he just wants to get out there and let you kick ass, that's awesome. You got an awesome dad, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked on him. That's his goal, is just logistics, because I'm in the wheelchair. As much as I want to say, yeah, I can conquer the world, there's a lot of stuff that I can't push my chair 100 yards through the forest over logs and rocks and rivers, stuff like that. So he comes through, gets us both out of the house, and it's adventures and stories and fun and memories and all that, so.
For sure, man. For sure. That's awesome. Well, Derek, you got any other ones for us, or are we going to call it? You tell me.
Oh man. Looking back at my wall here. Yeah, I think that's it for the most entertaining ones, but
Yeah, man, that's a strong one to finish on. I'll tell you that.
a lot of fish.
Well, let's do this, man. Why don't we? I don't know if you have anything else you want to tell the people. I know before we talked a little bit about kind of what your goals are as a handicap hunter. So why don't you go into that a little bit and then tell the people where they can find you, and then we'll wrap this shit up.
All right, yeah. So everybody, you guys can find me at T8_outdoorsman. So there's a T8 outdoorsman out there, and that was my original account, but Instagram didn't like what I said, so they kind of they kabooted me on that one. But T8_outdoorsman. So yeah, check that out, and the goal is, if you guys are out there, I get it. I know how hard it is, dude. I've been there. I've been completely miserable, hopeless, feeling worthless, like just depression. We've all been there to a degree, no one's a Superman their whole life, but one step, dude, just take one step forward, and then it's two steps, and then you look down the line a month later and you see, oh, I've taken 13 steps. Look where I've been and look where I am now. Like, you may not see it incrementally, but you will see it over time. I believe me, trust that. And get out there, do it, dude. There's people out there. Reach out to people online, on Instagram, on social medias. Just reach out. People will help you. People are stoked to help people with disabilities to get out there. And there's a foundation out there called Disabled Outdoorsmen USA. Check out their Instagram at Disabled Outdoorsmen USA. What they're doing out there down in Texas, they got one in Utah, South Carolina. They're crushing it. They're taking people with disabilities on dream hunts, whitetail, axis, elk, hog. They're out there. There's foundations. There's people. There's hunters, dude. There's a lot of people out there who are willing to help you guys, dude. Get on your social medias and just throw out a hey, what's up? So get it done. You may not be able to,
awesome, man,
but you can get it done.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, I'll make sure to put links to all of that stuff in the show notes. And Derek, I want to say thank you very much, man. What you're doing is really impressive. I know that I think the hardest shit I've ever done is hunting, and that's part of the reason I love it. And you are doing it more than I am and better than I am, and you're doing it with a disability. So you're a badass. That's all there is to it, bud. So thank you very much for jumping on the podcast.
Yeah, but you're a lot more handsome than I am, so it's all good.
I wouldn't go that far. I keep the beard so that you can't really see my face. My wife actually won't even let me shave it. So
you're camoed from your wife? Is that how it works?
Yeah. Well, she wants me to be camoed from her, I think. I've asked her if I could ever shave it. She's like, nope. Got to keep right. That thing. I don't think I've been clean shaven since our wedding. And people see our wedding photos. They're like, who's that? So but yeah, man, cool. Well, Derek, thanks again, man. This has been fun. I'm gonna stay in touch, and yeah, I want to hear about what other hunts you go on. I want to hear about the iguanas. I want to see your orange iguana first of all, because I've never seen an orange iguana. But
yeah, I'll send it as soon as I can. Those are cool stories too. I could have shared, but it's all good. Until next time.
Yeah, we'll get you on here again, man. Cool. Well, thanks again, Derek.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. I want to thank Derek, of course, for coming on the podcast. We couldn't have done it without him. He told some amazing stories, and it's even more amazing that he's doing all this in a wheelchair. I know he's just a bona fide badass. That's all there is to it. That being said, guys, please follow him on Instagram and check out what he's up to. It's T8_outdoorsman on Instagram. And while you're there, follow us. It's huntingstories_official. And then, of course, guys, the homework for today. Share the podcast with someone. Just one person, two people, I don't care, whatever, but we need to grow this thing, and that's the only way we're going to hear more amazing stories. So thank you again to Derek, of course, for coming on. I want to thank all you listeners, of course, for tuning in. So now, let's get out there and let's make some stories of your own. Thank you.